Welcome back to Contemporary Black Voices, where we're talking really about Essence Preparatory Public School here in San Antonio, Texas, and some of the systemic issues that might have impacted its ability to successfully teach kids at that school. Now, success is really in the eyes of the beholder, because when I went there, I did see some success in those kids, in that the teachers loved them. There was a sense of pride that you could see around the school. So they were successful in that. But again, academically, we had some issues. So Mario, you're the great historian of the city. What are some of the systemic issues that are impacting the education of Black students as well as brown students in the San Antonio area?
Well, it's very historical, number one, simply because Black history is not taught like it should be, never has been taught like it should be. And I got to see that. I was a certified special ed teacher in public school for 20 years. I was certified in mathematics, certified in social studies. I was a vice president of the Judson School Board. So and now I'm a professor. So I've been the whole route of the educational system, and everywhere along the line, I see that deficiency where Black history seems to be some sort of a taboo. And of course, in the atmosphere that we live in now, it's even worse. So, Black students was not associated with the state that taught along Afrocentric lines. But a lot of schools wanted to adopt, at least in part, some of that understanding, because if children aren't in tune with their own culture, they won't succeed. If they don't like themselves, they won't succeed. So I guess my question is, and this would be to the president of the board, how much do you think, if any, that having some schools that want to emphasize they already have a picture of Marcus Garvey on the wall.
That's right.
Or they already have a picture of someone else on the wall. But that's kind of being frowned upon. Do you feel like any of that negative Black history stuff may have been in effect when you all were being looked at?
So 100%. So let me clarify. I'm third generation East Side. I'm from Wheatley Courts. My K through 7 educational pathway was Town East Christian School over in Delcrest. I was one of 2 Black kids in this Christian white school. From there, my parents couldn't afford it anymore. I went to Wheatley Middle School, 2 blocks away from where I lived. And then I graduated from Sam Houston High School in 2001. I am currently a homeowner on the East Side. So I'm back invested. So I want to clarify that before I get into the systemic issues that impact our community when it comes to Black and brown students. Growing up, that was not a factor. If it was a factor, it wasn't an important one. And that's exactly what the problem is when it comes to education for our kind of community. Now, we learn about American history all the time. We don't factor in our systemic problems that impact our students that come day to day. So when we talk about the factor that these students are coming in 3 grades level below, we're never addressing that. Like, that's not a thing when it comes to the other campuses. Look, I had folks come from Wheatley Middle School into Sam Houston High School that were 3 grades below. We just pushed them out. I'm a factor of that. There's a reason I dropped out of college when I got to Sam Houston in 2001. We never addressed these issues. There was never a whole person concept when it came to the students that come through these schools. That's exactly why we kicked off Essence Prep, was because we realized these traditional ISDs weren't going to resolve it. Now, I mentioned a bit ago that I came into this situation with some vinegar when I came at public schools and administrators. And I realized after the years, man, it really doesn't come down to administrators. It's the district that allows it. It's the state level that doesn't support these schools in the right way. We want to support the standardized test scores, but we don't want to support the students when it comes to them as a person, when it comes to them as part of a family model. That's the thing that's the biggest gap. So when we came through trying to support Black and brown students, man, we had to resolve our whole mission and values. We had to adjust all that before we went to...
Just from mentioning the name, or just saying the words.
Oh, man, this was during CRT, or critical race theory. Like, we had to adjust our entire mission. We had to reword our entire language before we went for the State Board of Education.
Well, and that makes sense, because when I went before the State Board to help with the curriculum for African American Studies,
yes, sir.
I never forget one of the board members saying, I'll support this, but if you mention Malcolm X, I'm going to vote no.
Man, come on.
So they pick and choose what they want.
That's exactly right.
What they don't want you to say.
It's very intentional.
And I can see that would be a problem.
It's not incidental. It's very intentional.
It was so much so that we were asked to take those words out of our application. 65 times, to be exact, we were told, take the words black and brown out of your application. The question was, describe your community. I don't know any other way to describe San Antonio without using black and brown.
Well,
That's
you
right.
could have delineated more.
I guess so, right?
Yeah.
And to that point, Doc, you're right? And I know where you're going with it, but we were also asked, once we got to the state board for our capacity interview, right? You got to go through a very arduous process to start a charter school. They don't just give these things out, right? So I do appreciate the way the state at least starts the charter school process, right? Everyone shouldn't be able to get a key to a school, although we're seeing that now with ESAs. But with that said, I want you to know that we went through a process where 200 charters applied that year. 13 made it to the capacity interview. After the capacity interview, only 6 made it to where the state board could select.
Wow.
We were part of that 6.
Congratulations.
We were part of the 3 out of the 6 that were actually chosen and authorized to operate as a charter. We wrote a 487-page application. The state of Texas has never approved an application above a score of 87. We received a 95. The highest score that the state had seen then of a charter application, okay? But we were then told, while our application was one of the strongest they have ever seen in their history of accepting applications, we had to remove black and brown 65 times. We had to describe what did we mean when we said knowledge of self. When we talked about agency, describe the activities of agency. Do you mean you're gonna have kids advocating? Those were the questions that were asked when Essence was started.
So they wanted to basically avoid the demographic of the area.
That's it.
Yeah. How can you not mention black and brown when the demographic is black and
That's
brown?
right.
So they want to ignore the demographic. And he's absolutely right about, I went to Wheatley when it was a high school.
And my dad did too. My dad, yeah.
Oh my God.
My dad graduated from Fox Tech because they closed down in senior year.
Wow. So I understand how you lose things when you, especially in a segregated society, you've gone to a school that the demographic is black and brown, and then you try to go out in the rest of the world, then you're at a disadvantage automatically.
How did you describe the community, the student population, as non-white?
I mean, that probably would have been a better choice. But no, I describe them as who they are. They're black, Hispanic, Latinx. I used every descriptive word in which our community I know to use to describe themselves. I didn't, just say these are Mexican American families. We know our families are not monolithic. This community has never been, and I don't think it's going to start now. I think it's only going to get even more diverse. And so that's the way I describe the community.
You might have.
And calling all of us Americans is okay, but you can't just say that
That's right.
when you've never been treated
That's
like
right.
an American.
That's right.
You mind if I acknowledge something about public versus charter?
Go ahead.
So traditional public schools have been going through it for years. And again, I used to rail against administrators for public schools, and I realized it's a state issue. Let me say, they have this same struggle. However, they have something to fall back on. They have a network to fall back on. Us being a single campus, we're unable to do this. We have, and I want to clarify, we are in no competition with traditional ISDs. I've been on SAISD Foundation board for 3 years. Again, I'm a result of public school, traditional public school. We have tried to partner with them, and I'm realizing, Akeem, and Akeem, I don't want you to speak to this if you don't want to, but we have tried to partner with them for several years, realizing that at the end of the day, they can't partner with us because it gets them into muddy waters. We're doing the thing very intentional in our space, and they are not allowed to do that due to state regulations.
Because of DEI issues?
This is what, and more. This is why at the end of the day, when it comes to public schools, we're doing in-district charters. You notice we're doing in-district charters in public schools, and they are succeeding, amazingly. When we do academies like YWLA, Young Men's Leadership Academy, we get to kind of skirt those regulations a little bit. We get to do what we need to do for the communities that we need to do those things for. So I want to give some credit to traditional public schools from being under that, but that's exactly why we started Essence, because we were allowed to have some flexibility to make sure we are intentional about serving the communities that needed to be served in the ways we serve.
And I want to be clear that we when he said we tried to partner before we started Essence as a sub
yes.
D charter, we wanted to be a sub C charter,
correct.
which would allow us to operate inside of SAISC.
Absolutely.
The politics then, they told us no.
That's
and I want to be clear, right? When people say there's 20 independent school districts, we didn't want to add to that mix. We wanted to be a part of the solution. We knew our kids had been neglected and continue to be neglected for quite some time. And so, unfortunately, the politics of it, they said no.
Correct.
Can you tell us, you said now the school is still open.
Yeah, we're open until the end of this
We're
school
finishing
year.
this school year.
Oh, it's the whole
grand
school year.
ways.
I thought it was
Yeah.
last December.
No.
No, we're finishing the school
Yeah.
year. It's a commitment to our kids. Our kids, they deserve a completion.
Again, we got 13 new enrollees after New Year's.
Is there any way that the ruling from TEA be changed?
An appeal process.
We don't believe so, because historically they have never approved this type of appeal. And it takes a lot of financial resources to do so. And we want to use our financial resources to support our kids on this closure year, right?
And that was a board decision.
And it was a board decision. Brian is very clear in saying we're projected to have a C. We are. We're measuring our data. We're making sure that our teachers are where they're supposed to be. Classrooms are where they're supposed to be. So to do that, we have to focus on them and not allow these other things to distract us.
So then what happens to, okay, let's say this is the last year. What happens to the school? And I would assume that the school's not paid for. What happens with that?
Well, that's when we ask the community. We put a cup out. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Pass around the tide and trade,
No,
man.
but seriousness, right? Like, where's Ella Austin looking for a home right now? They have no home, right? They have Head Start programs. You have all of these micro schools that are starting that want to serve our kids. When we talk about the flexibility and the autonomy, some folks don't like the school voucher program. While they may not have been designed for us, we can take advantage of it.
That's right.
Right? Now we have a system and an institution that doesn't allow for financial and academic accountability. That's what the law calls. I'm not asking nobody to sneak nothing in. I'm just telling you this is what the law calls for.
So I hear
we
you
take advantage of that?
Do I hear you saying that Essence could possibly morph into something different?
Possibly.
That's all.
Possibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not going anywhere. The nonprofit, I don't want to speak for the board, but the nonprofit will remain the same. As the founder of the nonprofit, we're not going anywhere. Our work means a lot to the kids in which we serve in our community. We're not going anywhere.
Just because the state has forced us to dissolve doesn't mean the challenges aren't still there.
No, correct.
Again, our enrollment has
Actually
increased
exasperate.
every single year. The needs are still there. So somebody still needs to resolve those needs. Just because we don't have a charter anymore doesn't mean that someone can't come in and resolve those issues.
They exasperate.
One of the criticisms that I've heard, whether it's legit or not, I don't know. But one of the criticisms I heard, and hope you address it, is that sometimes it's a result, this kind of problem, sometimes is a result, although I can see where it probably isn't, as a result of not having certified teachers. So how do you all respond to that?
Yeah, my answer to that is very clear. Every teacher, I did my research. Every teacher, when I look at my ratings, right, my certified teachers did okay. My non-certified teachers who had been in the classroom for 13, 14 years, but they're non-certified, they did better. They did great. It's the years of experience. It's the years of experience, right? You have folks who have a driver's license and they don't drive as great as those who are taking student driving. Who take student driving, right? But every day we all risk the idea of getting into a car accident. So everyone can make mistakes. I don't believe having a certification, especially I have been a visiting professor in some of these education preparation programs. I don't see where they're preparing teachers to teach anyway. Right? Not the ways that you all learned how to prepare for education, and not the way I learned how to prepare for education. I was a classroom teacher for 2 years in New York. I was prepared before I walked into a classroom. At South Carolina State, I went through an education preparation program. I'm gonna call me Mr. Graduate, right? So I was a student teacher for 5 years, and I'm not certified.
So this attack on Essence from above, did that come up as an issue about who certified it?
It did. I've been hearing a lot of murmurs, but that's not the attack from the state. I've been hearing a lot of community members, well, none of the people have bachelor's degrees. That's a lie. Everybody on my campus that educates a child, they have to, and we verify bachelor's degrees, but they're not required by state law.
Nope.
to have a certification. But I have some of the greatest and best teachers. I have them from SAISD. I have them from other areas, some certified, some not. Because also, let me say real quickly, Doc, there are a lot of ISDs who have non-certified teachers. And people don't call that out. Because while they're required, these past few years, because of the teacher shortage, ISDs have been applying for waivers. Those waivers allow them to hire teachers who are not certified. You have districts right now, I won't call out any, but about 40% of their teachers are non-certified.
And
Do
with
you
that,
all
with
ever,
that,
one last question, do you all ever had to work with Region 20
Yes.
in any way?
Yes, sir.
Because that's always helpful.
Yes, sir.
Any-
We partner with Region 20 since the day we started.
what we're going to do is take a pause,
Yes, ma'am.
and we're going to come right back.
Okay.